Apple might be about to release the most boring looking iPhone in years and somehow make it one of the most important upgrades they've done in a long time. I'm serious. The iPhone 18 Pro leaks are out, and at first glance, this thing looks so familiar it almost feels lazy. Same general shape, same camera layout, same don't worry, trust us design language. But that's exactly why this phone is dangerous, because while everyone's distracted by the lack of visual drama, Apple is quietly making some of its biggest internal changes ever. New chip tech that actually matters, camera upgrades photographers have been begging for, Apple cutting more ties with Qualcomm, and even rumors of full satellite internet. But buried in all of that are a couple of details that don't quite sit right, and one rumor that I think people are getting way too excited about. By the end of this, you'll know whether this is the smartest iPhone to wait for or the easiest one to skip. The reason the iPhone 18 Pro matters isn't because it's flashy, it's the opposite. This feels like Apple's shifting strategy in real time, with the move toward a two-phase launch cycle where the Pro models come first and the standard models trail behind months later. Apple is clearly telling us who they care about most. The Pro lineup isn't just the premium option anymore, it's the foundation. If you want the best battery life, the best performance, the best cameras, and the features that will actually age well over the next 4 or 5 years, Apple is making it very clear that you're expected to buy Pro, and that makes this phone important because for once the upgrades aren't just cosmetic excuses to justify the price. They're structural changes that affect how the phone performs every single day, even if no one on Instagram notices. On the outside, Apple is playing it safe to the point of being almost boring. The iPhone 18 Pro keeps the same general design language as the previous generation, with the familiar raised camera plateau and the same display sizes we've already gotten used to, but the subtle changes are where Apple does its usual thing. The back glass is reportedly becoming more seamless, with less contrast between the frame and the glass, which sounds minor until you remember how obsessive Apple is about materials. This is the kind of tweak you don't notice on day one, but 6 months later, when your phone still looks premium instead of slightly mismatched, it suddenly makes sense, and then there's the thickness. The Pro Max is expected to get slightly heavier, slightly thicker, and normally that would be a red flag. But in this case, it feels intentional in the best way. Apple rarely adds bulk unless it's hiding something useful inside, and all signs point to battery. If this extra weight buys even a noticeable bump in endurance, especially paired with the efficiency gains coming later, most people will happily trade a few extra grams for not living next to a charger. The front of the phone is where expectations need to be managed. Under display Face ID is still not fully here, despite the hype. What's far more likely is a smaller dynamic island, refined rather than removed. Apple seems committed to slowly shrinking it out of existence instead of ripping the bandage off. It's not exciting, but it's consistent. And consistency is kind of Apple's whole personality. Where things really start to change is under the hood. The A20 Pro chip, built on TSMC's 2nm process, is the kind of upgrade that doesn't sound sexy until you realize what it enables. More performance without killing battery life, better efficiency across the board, and crucially, a chip architecture that's designed with AI workloads in mind instead of treating them like an afterthought. This isn't about benchmark flexing. This is about your phone feeling fast and stable years from now, not just on launch day. Apple is also doubling down on its independence with the new C2 modem, continuing its slow breakup with Qualcomm. The big headline here is proper M-Wave 5G support in the US, paired with better efficiency. That means faster speeds when they actually matter and less battery drain when they don't. Apple controlling more of its own silicon stack isn't glamorous, but it's how they optimize things other companies can't. The camera system might be the most underrated part of this phone. A new stacked sensor, potentially sourced from Samsung, would be a major shift away from Sony's long-standing dominance. The benefits are tangible too, with better dynamic range, faster response times, and cleaner images without relying entirely on computational tricks. Add to that a variable aperture on the main camera, and suddenly the iPhone starts behaving less like a point and shoot and more like a proper creative tool. Being able to control depth of field and light intake physically is the kind of upgrade that actually changes how people shoot, not just how specs look on a slide. And then there's satellite connectivity, not emergency SOS, not a gimmick, but the early groundwork for actual satellite data. If Apple manages to pull this off in a meaningful way, it's one of those features you won't care about until the exact moment you really need it, which is kind of the point. All of this comes together in a way that's less about specs and more about experience. This is the phone you take on a long trip and don't stress about battery. The phone that doesn't stutter when you're editing video, navigating a city, and juggling apps at the same time. The phone that takes photos that look natural instead of aggressively processed. And if satellite connectivity matures even a little, it becomes the phone that keeps you connected in places where that used to be impossible. None of this screams for attention, but all of it quietly improves how the phone fits into your life, which is ultimately what matters. Compared to the iPhone 17 Pro, this isn't a visual leap, it's a philosophical one. Where the previous generation refined the look, this one refines the foundation. A lot of coverage from outlets like 9 to 5 Mac and Bloomberg naturally focuses on what you can see, but the real story here is what you can't. Apple is clearly positioning this phone as something that will age gracefully while competitors chase bold designs that may or may not hold up over time. It's not flashy confidence, it's quiet confidence. And my honest take is that this iPhone isn't for everyone, and that's okay. If you upgrade every year chasing novelty, this will feel underwhelming. But if you keep your phone for 3, 4, even 5 years, this might be one of the smartest upgrades Apple has offered in a while. It's built for longevity, resale value, and future proofing rather than short-term hype. And in a year where regulation, sustainability, and long-term software support matter more than ever, that approach feels deliberate, not lazy. That doesn't mean it's perfect. It will be expensive. The weight increase won't be for everyone. The dynamic island is still here, whether you like it or not. And satellite internet, while exciting, is still very much a believe it when I see it feature. There's also the risk that Apple leans too hard on internal upgrades and forgets that some people do want to feel excited when they pull a new phone out of the box. And yes, if that brown color actually ships, we need to have a serious conversation. So here's the verdict. If you're on an iPhone 15 or 16 and you care about long-term value, this is absolutely a phone worth waiting for. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's smart, and smart tech tends to age better than trendy tech. Now, I want to know what you think. Would you accept a slightly heavier phone if it meant better battery life and cameras that actually evolve? Or do you want Apple to finally take a big design risk again? Drop your take in the comments. And if this video saved you from panic upgrading, hit like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.